Welcome to the Acquisition Collective podcast. I am your host, Charlie Tanner. Thank you for tuning in. This is the place where we discuss all things around the M&A landscape. So if that sounds like it's up your street, then stay tuned and let's dive into this week's guest. So back to it. If we can just run through the process from start to finish, we're going to skim it slightly and make it easier for the person looking to get into the space understand.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a reduced version
Yes. Yeah.
of the acquisition process from start to finish.
Yeah.
So from my perspective on my involvement, the first sort of element of any acquisition should be the heads of terms.
Yep.
So your heads of terms, they're sort of a preliminary agreement. So there's certain portions of a heads of terms that are legally binding, and then there are certain parts that aren't. So the commercial terms, i.e. how much you're paying for the business, how the payments are to be made, any specific warranties, any specific indemnities, any handover period, whether or not that handover period is remunerated or not is a really interesting one to get in there. I always sort of say to my clients when we talk about remunerating the seller for their handover period, I always sort of say, well, if it's over a month, if you were working a month for a company, would you kind of expect a little bit of cash for it? I probably would.
Another one I always put in mind is working capital agreement and the calculation to go with it.
Yes. So again, whether or not the person is paying like a fixed fee for the business, a fixed price for the business, or whether it's a cash-free, debt-free, or it's based on the net asset value, so the NAV. So you'll either hear cash-free, debt-free on NAV. Quite a lot.
Generally,
and again, things like working capital, how much is to be left. And again, sort of conversations around working capital, I sort of say, and again, from my experience, it always averages around between sort of 1 and 3 months working capital. I did see one where they were like, we want 12 months working capital. I was
so this is
not going to happen.
Like I said, because I always buy construction, I always go to the negotiation table saying I want 6 months.
Yeah.
But I never take less than 4.
Yes.
But that's because I know payment cycles are predominantly 90 days, 60, 90 days.
That should be the whole question around working capital should be, it's the idea that the company is on day one, on completion day, that company is left with enough cash reserves to sort of, when we were talking earlier about
oversee the transition period.
It's sort of like, we know that there's going to be a potential period of instability within the business. So that working capital just provides a buffer.
Yes.
Yeah. Generally speaking, the working capital is not paid back to the seller. It is just money that is left in the company on completion.
I just know that when I've gone into talks with on-market brokers or businesses that are listed, that a lot of them are advised to leave 1 month in. And that's it. And I've had a lot of deals fall out of bed just off a working capital agreement alone. Yeah. Probably more than anything else, because I don't demand it, but I say I need a minimum of 4 months for my risk mitigation.
The problem that normally faces when it comes to working capital is sellers see the money in the business as their money.
Correct. Yeah.
When in actual fact, the business, the money in the company belongs to the company as a separate legal entity. It's sort of your kid's savings account. Like you might be your child's parent, but you're not the owner of their savings account if they're over the age of 18.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's sort of the way you should really be looking at money in your company. But again, going back to the heads of terms, those sort of commercial terms, we don't make them legally binding because, again, things that come up in the due diligence,
they sort of
it'll need to move and be sort of vaguely flexible. Things that should be legally binding: the costs, the jurisdiction and governing law clauses, the exclusivity period if there is one, and for God's sakes, confidentiality. Make sure your heads of terms either has a full confidentiality clause, or you have signed a separate NDA that is referenced in the heads of terms. As for sort of everything else, it's a bit of a movable feast.
Yes.
And it kind of has to be. So once we've got the heads of terms signed, now sometimes if I've got an experienced buyer, they will just come to me when they've got a signed set of heads of terms. Other times, I'll be brought in to help negotiate the heads of terms and to help draft out the heads of terms to make sure that everything's covered off and boxed off quite nicely. So once that bit's done, the next phase is the SPA and the APA, it's the purchase agreement and the due diligence phase. Normally we try and get these running together so that it doesn't cause delays, but sometimes a buyer might want to do the due diligence phase standalone and then begin work on the SPA.
So what causes the biggest delay in that time period normally?
Generally speaking, I would say if you're going for external funding, lenders can cause quite a few delays.
Okay.
And that's because they have to, and it's not, by no means am I sort of being unkind about lenders. What is they have to be sure that the money they're lending out is going to come back.
Yeah, because
I've
had a few discussions with some lenders over the last few weeks, and they say, and again, obviously, I've sat down on the first podcast with Gary Lennon, who's a commercial lender. He owns Biz Britain, and he was saying, or one question I asked him was, what's the realistic time frame for acquisition lending? And he goes, you'll not allow anywhere from 4 to 12 weeks.
Yeah.
In reality. So don't be thinking, if you're doing asset lending or asset-based lending or invoice finance, something like that, that's different. You could probably get that in a few weeks because there's something to leverage. But when you're raising money against a business, they need to do their due diligence on their business accounts, the P&L, and all the other stuff that they look into, the forecasting. Yeah. There's a whole mechanics that go into that, and it's not instant.
No, it's really not. So, like with the due diligence process from a legal perspective, I've always sort of said, like, when it comes to sort of from signing heads of terms to completion can be anywhere from 3 weeks, and I say 3 weeks if there is no external lending. Yeah. Anywhere from 3 weeks to sort of 3 months is average, but deals can go on for over a year. I've worked on deals that have gone on for 13, 14 months.
Brutal.
And that was a lot to do with lender issues.
Oh, really? Okay.
When it comes to like sort of the legal element of the due diligence, what realistically the due diligence process begins with is a DDQ or due diligence questionnaire. And that can range anywhere from maybe 30 questions about the company all the way through to 150, 180. It basically, what the aim is to get as much information as we possibly can to get a really good oversight of what that company is, to get a real sort of understanding of the issues that company may have. And again, we do that through there's loads of different types of due diligence. There is financial due diligence, there's legal due diligence, there's commercial due diligence, there's marketing due diligence, there is employment due diligence, there is 1,000,001 types of. But when we send over the DDQ, the other side, the seller, or if I'm working on the sell side, I will open the data room, which basically is a place where the sellers can import all of the documents on their legal team. If you're working on sell side, obviously, I will review the documents, all of them, before we open the data room up to this side. If I identify an issue, and generally the way I sort of explain this to my clients is I review all of the documents in there as if I was coming from the other side. So you may get a call from me saying, I've seen this document, we're going to need to provide some more context to it. We're going to need more details. So have you got anything more up to date? Or let's say if I'm working in like a manufacturing company and they've got risk assessments that are like 5 or 6 years out of date, and you sort of say to them, have you had any more recent up to date risk assessments done? If they go, no, I'm going to go, well, perhaps get some before we bloody well open up this data room. But again, we identify key details, and again, I'll start making.
Just like you said, it just helps the process, not streamline, but it just helps be practical and get there as efficient as possible. It's good.
Exactly that. And once if I'm on buy side, once I have reviewed all the documents, we'll produce what we call a legal due diligence report or an LDD report. And basically what I'll do is we give a summary of each document that we've reviewed. Yeah. We will identify key big issues that need to be corrected, whether they need to be corrected before completion, after completion, or pre-signing if it's a split exchange and completion. We will also sort of make a recommendation as to we may need to put in additional indemnities into the document. We can ask the seller for a correction. So if like, let's say, for example, risk assessments that are severely out of date, we can say to the seller, we are going to need these risk assessments updating. Otherwise, we're going to have to go for an indemnity. And then if something comes on the back of it, you'll be liable for that. So once we've done the due diligence process, we'll give you a report. Generally speaking, the condition, the recommendations that we'll put in a due diligence report will be, again, it's an indemnity, it's a correction, maybe additional warranties, or we might have, if something comes up that's so terrible, we would have to advise the client to step away and go, look, we're going to have to withdraw this company is, if we sort of find out that the company is insolvent or the company has got like a lot of unresolved issues or sort of things that come up really frequently, sort of your commercial due diligence would be your like sort of contracts can change in a change of control provision.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So the change of, if you're not familiar with the change of control, it basically says if you sell this company, we have the right to terminate your agreement with you. And so if that is from a major customer, that's a big problem. It could be from a major supplier, or if you've got like sort of assets that have been loaned, like, or if you've got like finance on assets, they can sometimes say if there is a change of control, we'll take back this key asset that you guys are currently leasing from us. And that can cause a lot of problems. And then once that's done, we, generally speaking, we'll send out the SPA, the first draft of the SPA, so the share purchase agreement, or it'll be an asset purchase agreement. So we'll send out the first draft of the purchase agreement, and that'll be getting reviewed and amended at the same time, normally at the same time as the due diligence is happening, if it's not being separated.
It's constantly moving, isn't it, at that point? Yeah.
If you want your deal to go through quickly, I would not try and do all of the due diligence and then start on the drafting of the SPA. Some solicitors or some lawyers do find it easier because if you've identified issues, you go, we're going to need an indemnity for this, we're going to need an indemnity for that, we're going to need an indemnity for these things. Yeah. You can draft it into the first draft of the SPA. So I can see why, but I also think it causes frigging delays and it's really fucking irritating.
Yeah. It's just extra work on both sides, isn't it?
So once we've got we move on to the SPA part. So I refer to this bit as the what to expect when you're expecting a share purchase agreement. If you've ever had a child, like there are several expectant mothers who have read the book What to Expect When You're Expecting, and I sort of thought
slightly different,
slightly more boring. But so whenever we're looking at an SPA, and I always sort of say, if it's a well drafted SPA in the first instance, it should be in plain and simple English. It should not be containing heretofore, whereas, hereby, therein.
That's old-fashioned templates in my eyes. But
I generally
you still see them.
You do see them. You do see them a lot, and I am very much against using archaic language to get a point across. I think what's the point in making it more confusing? But with an SPA, sort of the top part, you'll see the parties, and you'll see something called it might be called the background or the recitals. Okay. So the parties, obviously, really self-explanatory. If you don't know what the parties are, step away from the deal. It's not for you. The recitals, basically the background is just giving context. It's just saying the seller has agreed to sell the shares, the buyer has agreed to purchase the shares, and if the document contains a PG wording, the guarantors agree to agree to be the guarantors of the guaranteed obligations. Clause 1, so it should say from this part of this, whereas agreed, if it's old-fashioned, but it should say as agreed. You'll have clause 1, and that should be a definition section and an interpretation. Definition section is just like a really, really boring frigging glossary. Yeah. If I've written the word company, I am referring to the target company that you guys are buying, not Tesco. If it says shares with a capital F, I'm referring to the shares that you will be buying. Or if it says assets, it's the assets that you guys will be buying. Or if I say business day, I'm saying it's Monday to Friday, 9 to sobbing 5 is a business day. And again, you just read it a bit like a glossary. Yep. There's no obligations in there. There's nothing that should be obligating any of the buyer or the seller in any context in that section of the document. Also, when you get to like interpretation, if we say something like written that includes facts, or it includes email but does not include facts, it's basically all just trying to understand it. I would say from clause 2 down to clause 5 is all about the money and completion. So it's the purchase price, it's how it's being paid, it's the actual obligation to buy and sell the shares is in there. And then the completion is basically, the completion clause should be basically telling you what's going to happen on completion, when, where. And when I say when and where, we don't ever date an SPA until the completion day. So if your lawyer has sent you an SPA and you're going, oh, shall I put the date on? Please don't. Please freaking don't. And also don't sign it. We'll tell you when it's going to be signed. Yes. But then we'll move on sort of like clause 6 down to sort of clause 8 or 9. You're going to have your warranties clause in there. You're going to have your limitation of liability, your restriction on sellers, and potentially an indemnity if they're required. So if we've done the due diligence process and we have spotted the need for an indemnity, we will put in the indemnity in that sort of area of the document. The warranties will refer to the warranty schedule, and it'll say things like, so far as the seller is aware, this means that the seller has done due and careful inquiries. So they're not just saying, we didn't know. The limitation on liability, again, I would sort of expect to see that the limitation on liability for the sellers is limited to the purchase price as it's actually been received. So if you've got a deferred consideration, the buyers can't sue the seller for more than they've actually paid the seller. And we sort of try and keep that in as reducing. Also, with the limitation, there's a time limit. Generally speaking, for a warranty claim, it'll be for maybe up to sort of 2 to 3 years. For a tax covenant claim, it'll be 7 years. And for any other claim, it might be 18 months or it might be 2 years. And then next from down there, we'll take a look at the restrictive clauses, which basically will say, in a roundabout way, it will say something along the lines of within that the seller won't try and start up another business or be interested in another business for at least 12, 24, 36 months after completion. And it'll be non-compete, your non-solicitation, and non-trying to take away the suppliers. And again, those are generally sort of singularly enforceable. So the seller, if the seller breaches any one of those, it's solidly enforceable. Then once from there, you'll get sort of like what we call the boilerplate. So that'll be like your confidentiality clause, your entire agreement clause, your severance clause, governing law, jurisdiction, third-party rights, further assurances. Those types of clauses that are present in every agreement that you're likely to see. And then from there, we'll move into the schedules. Now, Schedule 1 is generally always particulars of the company or particulars of the sellers. So if there's more than one seller, it'll normally have all the sellers' individual addresses listed in the shares they own and what proportion of the shareholding they're getting. If it doesn't have that, you'll just see the particulars of the company, which basically are, this is the company, this is its number, this is how many shares of sale, this is who the directors are, this is the charges. Again, pay close attention to the charges section, because that will tell you what charges are in the company. You should already know if you're...
when you're at this stage.
If you're at this stage, you should know what the charges are, but they're listed there. If there are charges, what we'd normally expect to see brings us very nicely on to Schedule number 2, which is, generally speaking, is the completion obligations, which basically is a list of all the documents that are going to go back and forth. You'll see that the agreement is listed as a completion obligation for the seller. You'll see that there's the stock transfer forms, the waivers, the resignation letters, the board meeting minutes, the massive amount of documents that are going to go. But if there is a charge in the company, I would expect to see there's going to be an obligation in there to file an MRO4, which is the releasing of a charge, which can only be done once the lender it's been satisfied in full.
Okay.
We move on to Schedule 3, which I would expect to be, generally speaking, would be your warranties schedule. Now, again, when we're looking at warranties, I say this every time. When we read a warranty, it is not an obligation. It is a statement of fact. It is either true or false. You'll sort of see things in the warranty schedule, such as since the account states there've been no material adverse changes to the company. You'll see that the sellers there is a warranty now that the sellers have the right to sell the shares, they own them, and that they're unencumbered. You would expect to see like some sort of warranty relating to the assets, maybe data protection, environmental matters. But basically, their statements of fact, they will say something along the lines of the assets of the company are in good working order for their age and are fit for the job with which they were designed. And that's how warranty works. Generally speaking, what we'll find normally when it comes to problems after completion, it'll be because of a breach of warranty. Let's say you've just bought a freezer, like a part of the assets of the company was a freezer, and it's cold storage factory you've bought, and all the freezers are broken. That will be considered a breach of warranty because they've warranted to say that the freezer is in a good working condition. If they haven't disclosed against it, then you can bring a claim against them for breach of warranty. We'll move on to Schedule 4. Generally speaking, is a tax covenant, which basically, in a very roundabout way of saying, and I would always say, get your accountant to take a look at the tax covenant and the tax warranties while we draft them. Like, your accountant may think that the wording might need to be amended, and again, we sort of take from their expertise. But the tax covenant basically says, or should say along the lines of, and what I'd expect to read is that from the point of completion, the buyer is liable for all of the tax up until the point of completion, or up until the point of the account date. The seller is liable for the tax that's been incurred for it to have been paid. That's again, and that is basically the rest of that schedule is so you'll see the obligations, you'll see the exclusions, but the rest of it is how any disputes are to be handled. So if there is a disagreement on the tax covenant, it'll be recommended to a chartered accountant from the ICAW. Then if we go into to Schedule 5, Schedule 5 is generally either the property schedule, or if you've got completion accounts, so a cash-free, debt-free mechanism, that'll normally be included at sort of Schedule 5.
Yeah.
I thought it'll be properties. Again, the cash-free, debt-free mechanism is basically how the company is going to be valued when they do the completion accounts, and it'll have specific policies in there for how things are to be measured and calculated. And then finally, right at the very bottom of the document, you will be seeing the signature strip. And again, if it's a signature strip, if the document contains a PG written into it, like a personal guarantee written in, then you would be signing it as a deed rather than as a contract. But if it's a straightforward share purchase agreement or asset purchase agreement, you would generally expect it to be just a signature of whoever is selling. So that's the SPA. While that's going ahead, if you're working on sell side, we'll be drafting another really important document, which is your disclosure letter. Now, the disclosure letter relates to things that have been specifically disclosed, so that if something is being disclosed, the buyer can't bring a claim against the seller because of something that they've already disclosed. I.e., if you're buying a company and they said, look, the freezers are on the fritz, or if you're buying a company and the printers or the vehicles are all without an MOT, if the seller has disclosed against them and the buyer is aware and happy to take that risk, then the buyer can't bring a claim against them until later on for something that has been disclosed, as long as they are given enough information and scope to work out the matter of the disclosure. And so we'll produce a specific disclosure letter, which is linked to the warranty. So let's say if we see, again, sort of going back to it's a really simple one is to go to the assets, but let's say if there is an asset that's not working, we'll put a disclosure and we'll say, so according to paragraph 16A, the freezer is coming to the end of its serviceable life. It is no longer in working order, blah, blah, blah. And we'll give as much detail as we can about the freezer and about what's going on. Or let's say if the company's got an active claim against it or a claim on the insurance, we'll put in as much detail as we can to make sure that whatever we've disclosed meets the threshold of disclosed in the share purchase agreement. Once all of those documents have been agreed, including the ones in Schedule number 2, if you are listening, we move to exchange and completion. So exchange is when the documents are signed, and then completion is where we put the date on the documents. As lawyers, we'll put the date on the documents and we will transfer the funds from either the buyer or we'll expect the buyer to receive.
Because that's what some people don't get or don't understand is where does all the funds go to and then get distributed from?
So it depends on who you're working with. So most sort of solicitors and lawyers will have a client account. So the money will get transferred from one solicitor's holding account to the other solicitor's holding account. Yeah. They will say, I'm in funds, we are ready to complete. Once those funds, once we've completed and the completion phone call happens between the lawyers, I always think it's a really interesting process because you pick up the phone and go, yeah. So can you confirm that you're in funds? Have we got authority to complete? Okay, thank you. I am putting the date on the document now. Completion occurred at 6:25 p.m.
It's very anticlimactic.
Thank you for your support on this matter. All the best in the future. Ta-ra. Yeah. A really straightforward call. There's a bit of a process to them. You might sort of exchange, potentially the exchange of undertakings to release the funds. But yeah, that's literally...
It's a transaction from a legal perspective.
Start to finish from the lawyer's perspective. It's a wild. It's. I always sort of say it's good to have sort of fun on the acquisition, and it's good to sort of keep things moving and keep things sort of. While it's a serious thing that's occurring, you've got to remember enjoy the process. The process. I always sort of say, even though I know the process backwards, and I can sort of reel off what I'd expect to find in an SPA or what I'd expect to see in a disclosure letter, I can reel it all off pretty much verbatim, but like every single transaction is different. There's seller nuance, there's
That's what I
buyer
mean.
nuance.
It's different. Like you said, every business is different. Every buyer, seller is different. Like it's a good industry to be in because you meet so many characters in that aspect. Like people who start businesses and run it for many years, they're a certain caliber of person anyway. So just to be in and around them is.
Well, I would find it really, really interesting to, and you might come across this, but like with your own clients where the seller has always been aware they are going to sell the business. They've started a business. They've started it maybe 5 or 10 years ago. This has always been the plan.
Yeah.
Like they have structured everything for this end goal, and they've got a figure that they want. They've got an amount that they are gunning for, and they are doing everything to make it happen like that. And I also find those sellers are really interesting to work with because like all of their documents, generally they're prepared with the documents because they've been keeping them since day one.
Yep.
There's no waiting for the accountant to come back because they have all of the files ready to go. And they are generally sort of very well versed in how a deal is going to be structured before you sort of start explaining. And they roughly half the time they know exactly what security they want, depending on what deal structure.
Yeah,
so,
90% of the deals done at heads on them kind of deals.
I would say with a good set of heads of terms, I should be able, as a lawyer, when I get a good set of heads of terms, I should be able, there should be not much left for me to...
Yeah, there's no more meat on the bone.
Yeah, there's not much there left for me to interpret. What it should be very clear on what's being, like how the money's transferring. I should know what the parameters are that I'm drafting for.
Yeah, it should just be to iron out what comes out of the woodwork and due diligence. And what does come out, what then happens. It should be... Yeah, that should be set out from the calculations.
It's straight off. Again, a good set of heads terms will save you a lot of headaches in the drafting round. And also, there's a lot of things that can be like when we say talking about ironing out. Whenever we did when we sponsored the last event and we were doing that talk, and I was sort of explaining like when someone asked me how much of the deal is spent on the phone to the other side's lawyers, and I was sort of go, well, if they've got a good set of heads terms drafted, I will pick up the phone and go, other side solicitor, other side's lawyer, this isn't in the heads of terms. This isn't what was negotiated. So please, can we return back? It's a very straightforward phone call. Yeah. Very straightforward. And again, it's like a good set of heads of terms should keep those variables fairly narrow. But yeah, as I said, it's a very, it should be like a decent set of heads of terms, a good place.
Yeah, it should capture a majority of it, I believe. It's said.
Always sort of, again, starting off on a good footing. If you do the legwork, and I've always sort of said this of not my biggest complaint of brokers. I try to be nice about them, Charlie. I do my best.
Well, look, I can't help. The majority of the broker industry is shit.
I've always said though that if we did a lot of the front end work at the very beginning,
it's like anything you do is all in the prep. And it's always in the prep. So if you are organised and you prepare to make it as streamlined as possible, you're going to get an easier result. It's as simple as that.
I've always said if when brokers instructed that when they got the instruction from their client, when they go to list, if the brokers provided their client with like a due diligence questionnaire and said, answer this folder, put everything into a folder, and on whenever the other side's lawyers request it, we can send out all of those documents. They're already filed. They're already done in a way that is workable for a potential buyer. I've always sort of, and that's been like my sort of thing. Like I sort of say, like if we do a lot of preparation in the heads of terms, the rest of the process should be fairly straightforward and fairly smooth.
Yeah,
but yeah, that's the process.
That's the thing. The process. It's like when I have clients, and for anybody who doesn't know, obviously I have my own sales side brokerage. So I've worked with clients looking to sell their business. So I have always, like, when you sit down with them initially and you onboard them as clients, you list them, you market them, you value their business, you run through what to expect, or this is what I do anyway. I'm not a big corporate, I'm a small boutique, independent, growing broker. So I have personally bought and sold businesses. So when I sit down with a client to sell their business, I know what buyers are going to want to see in my own head. So I have designed templates, questionnaires. This is what we need to put. This is what we need to organise and put in the data room. Yeah. Buyers are going to want to see these 5 things to value your business. So you know what we're going to do? Before, at the same time as I'm creating your IM, you're going to give me all this information. So I don't waste any of my time or any of the buyer's times going through searching. And that's why it's just organized, and buyers like it, because I know what they want. So I can present that on, they can sign the NDA, and then upon that, they can get all the information.
Yeah.
Like within a click of a response. So I know that if they're serious, they get all the information already. They can say, right, I want to set up a discovery call, and then even off the back of that, they can make an indicative offer if they're really keen. You know,
I was going to say it's one thing that I think is really important, especially when I work on sell side, is to make sure that like we say to the client that you be upfront and honest about the bad things as well. Don't try and paint a picture that isn't real.
Yeah, but it's like I say to the clients as well. I said, right, so you've got to be open and honest about how much of a lifestyle business this is for you. So anything you run for the business, just list it on page. It's not the be all and end all, but if they get to due diligence and they find all this stuff out, it's going to raise alarm bells, and then they're going to prod further. So just be open and honest and list it all out now. Do monthly accounts. If you don't do that now, or you go back to your drawing board and you come back to market in a year, 2 years time. It's up to you. But if you, it all comes down to the visibility of the commercial aspects of the business, which is the main driving point for valuation, receiving offers. And that's way before you even get into the mechanics of the structure of the business, what it does, and the EBITDA, and the real cash flow, and then the forecast. There's a whole.
Well, that is the thing. It's like if again, myself, I'm doing the legwork in the front end.
Yeah.
And it's like you find that like if you've gone in with all of the information and all of that information is correct, then the buyer who has made this offer based on all of the information is not going to come back midway through the due diligence process and go, well, we've seen this issue and we are going to have to reduce the asking price. We're going to reduce our offer by 50% and we're going to saddle you with an indemnity. Which again, so it's for the later the indemnity period, realistically, you could be sort of having sleepless nights for the next 2 years, 3 years. It's one of those things where like, if you go in with the spirit of being very sort of open and honest and sort of giving full details early doors, there are less variables later on that could end up rocking the boat. There's another thing that I find really interesting, and maybe I don't know if you pick up on this as well, but when you're working with a seller and it gets to about the week before completion, and all of a sudden you can see the day it happens, just reality kicks in, where they go, actually, this is the business that I have nurtured from being this little.
A lot of them can't cope with it.
It's one of those. It is generally one of those things that you see, and like I work with a lot of sellers, and like I'm working on a couple of deals at the moment, and we are weeks away, like a week away from completion, and all of a sudden, like you can see the change in the seller where you can see that it's becoming real. That actually, this is the business that they've run for 40 years.
Yes.
They're stepping away as of Tuesday morning or Wednesday morning or Friday afternoon. They are no longer.
Normally, it's one of two things. It's their own routine they've created and done for so many decades or years. It's they grasp that's going to be gone. They got to go and find something else to do, or it's because they're so attached to the staff. And they feel guilty.
That's
a lot of the.
You see the
a lot of the sellers.
Whenever
they're so. Like when you own businesses, that you're so responsible for people, like, and if you've got a conscience, you feel for the people. You get, like you said, you're around them as much as your family, if not more. So you bond with the people. You know, like if you to say like you're cold-hearted and say you don't care about your employees, you're just a toss if you say that for a start. But if you don't bond with your employees and understand them, then it's going to be a difficult transition.
No, exactly that. It's whenever I think as a seller and being prepared for that. That actual stepping.
But that's another thing I always say to people, even when in talks with them, and to bring on as clients, is like you just touch on things like that. It's like, obviously you might have this big goal of what you want to do post completion, but it's hard. Like I've gone through it. Like I was lucky enough in my exits, I've always exited to internal management, right?
Yeah.
Because the industry doesn't really cater for the traditional transaction exits. So it's always been internal, it's always slightly different for me. I felt the whole lost part,
Yeah.
right? And that was even with having the summer off with the family. Then they go back to school, and then I felt really lost. And that's why I thought, I'm going to do the whole consultancy thing. And then I veered off, and that organically evolved into the brokerage.
Yeah, no, I absolutely.
But I can see why people, after they sell their business, they just go straight back and do something else, even if it's. I've known sellers who've earned multi-million pounds and gone and worked in B&Q.
Yeah, it's that thing of keep it busy, but like I think the mind of a business owner is very different to the mind of an employee.
Yes,
and it is difficult when they sort of step out of that routine. If I sort of look at, because I own MudUp, MudUp has been like my obsession and it's been my baby for the past 8 years. I have watched it grow from an idea walking around a field with a very depressed human being to it providing me a life better than I ever thought was humanly possible. And whenever I sort of look at if I had to step away, I don't know how I cope, because like for me, MudUp is my get up every
now that's
morning.
just the norm, isn't it?
Yeah. It's you get up every morning, you go and do your work. If your client needs you to stay on a little bit later, like you're able to do that. And again, you have that control and that purpose. And I think when sellers realize that is coming to an end, you can sort of see you
can see it in their face, like you said.
It just sort of comes
and then
in.
On completion day, like I said, 75% of the time, it is so anticlimactical. I will always try and get all parties to the office to try and, even if it's to take a picture, pop a champagne, just try and do something to celebrate it.
Yeah.
Because so many of them don't do that. They don't even go and shake hands. They just step off and then they neglect it. It's
in my experience, so I'm based up in Yorkshire, the wonderful namesake of the county. And so like I'll have clients that are working all over the country. Like some of my clients will be completing on deals in Brighton.
So
I can't necessarily be there. I mean, if the client requested my presence there, I would absolutely go and be involved in the celebration.
But very rare they all get together, don't they?
It's
and say, right, even if they go, let's go and celebrate for a meal or something like that. They don't. Very rarely they do.
I would say since COVID, when we've realised that actually provision of like legal services and Zoom and DocuSign exists, we don't all need to be in the same room.
No.
So that has sort of meant that like whenever you think of an acquisition, you think of the champagne bottle being shaken all over the office. It happens. So I've never really known it happen. Don't get me wrong, there are some clients will go out.
I think the bigger the more I think the bigger the corporate, more size transaction, even still, they just do their own celebrations themselves.
I do think it's important though, like having that sort of celebration, celebratory event that covers, like, that marks the occasion. I think that's.
But I've watched a lot of M&A sort of stories and pods and stuff like that, and a lot of people who have exited, a lot of them say, again, this wasn't what I thought it would be. I signed and the funds come in, great, but that's it. So, right, okay.
You realise that the funds, I think the funds are very hollow. It's like,
because by the time you've run a business for that amount of time, your life's already good anyway, right? Because you're in the top probably 15% or whatnot. So you're comfortable. You're not. It's not like you're slogging away and you're struggling because you own a business. So if you sell your business, you're in a good state anyway. So just to add some figures to that, it's
I think it is. It's one of those things. It's like you're taught with some my I don't know how much Charlie Norton will thank me for this one, but when I remember him saying, we were working on a transaction together years ago, and he goes, he says, the seller's going off to Thailand with his girlfriend for 6 months.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, God, I love this story.
God. And then we worked out that his girlfriend was a key employee of the business. But it is that thing. It's like most of the time the sellers are sort of going like, what they've already spent the money before it's arrived in the account, and you sort of going, oh, please don't.
Yeah.
Oh God, like you'll sort this out. And then my favorite thing to do is just remind them, by the way, you will have to pay capital gains tax. You on selling your business, chances are there's going to be some capital gains.
Yep.
Chances are there's going to be some other taxes that you may be liable for if you take it as a dividend. You may be liable for certain taxes.
Even a lot of businesses that are listed, right? Obviously, anyone who comes to me, I will say, get your tax in order. Understand the tax perspective. Don't talk to a specialist. Understand your tax, because your figure you want, obviously the tax man's going to want his chunk.
Yeah.
Whether you do an exit over time, which will be better on paper and more tax efficient, maybe so. It's very difficult to do that now because HMRC are all up in everyone's business with exit.
I sort of find it really the things that whenever you're working out if you are doing deferred payments with a seller, just bear in mind whatever number we put on the SPA, or it will be the SPA. Whatever number we put on the SPA and in the stock transfer form is the amount they could be liable for paying CGT on, and they might not get business asset disposal relief either. Like depending on how it's calculated. And again, I'm not a tax accountant, I don't know, but I was once working on a transaction where they were planning on doing, I think they were planning on paying about 50%, maybe a little bit more on completion day. And the amount that we'd put in the SPA and that had gone onto the stock transfer form, again, the stock transfer form lists the purchase price.
Yeah.
So if we're saying we're buying this company for £10 million, we put 10 million in the stock transfer form. The tax amount due, I'm not even going to try and calculate it, but the tax amount due, even if they're in the receiver, 5 million on day one, 5 million on year, and 5
same for each time. Yeah,
it's the same amount of money they're going to be expected to pay 28 days after. And I remember the client calling me and going, "Oh, he seems quite irked this week." And we worked out. We had a conversation with the seller a bit. Well, I didn't have a conversation. My client had a conversation with the seller a bit later on. He said, literally, the problem is, once I've paid all of the tax, which will be due 28 days from completion, I will be left with about, it was some stupid amount, like £5,000 for £1 million plus. It was a high £1 million company. So I will be left with such a low amount of money that these numbers don't work. And again, like you've got to factor in all of these things when you work out deferred consideration. It's all good and well saying, I'll pay you a tenner on day one, and I'll pay you 100,000 on year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5, and then I paid $500,000 for this company. But on day one or very soon after, if in the stock transfer form it says what the purchase price is,
you got that big tax bill.
You're going to have a big tax bill there, and that's got to work for the buyer and seller.
I remember, what was it, 3 years ago? I was looking to buy this main contractor commercial contractor, right? Biggest business I ever offered on. It was turnover like 18 million. So I was well above my means. I was reaching, and good business, good solid business. 4 shareholders. Main guy was fine. He's chairman. The others all operating the business. One was the MD. One was head of commercial, and the other one was operations director. So there's all like basically the main guys, Obviously, the chairman was the main majority shareholder. It's him. I was pretty much talking to him each time. The other 2 were there. The other one wasn't even in the room because they just all hated him. So alarm bells rung then. But this was all me learning. Me trying to be the big bollocks. But I put an offer on about 3 million. They accepted, right? Yeah. Because they've been on for like 18 months. They knew, because obviously big figures, big vanity turnover business model, but small margins, right? Yeah. They accepted that, got the heads drafted, Then they went and spoke to a tax person. So soon after that, they go, we're taking it off the market. What's that? Yeah, what we want each, we can't get. What's that? Tax.
Yeah.
Right, okay. So I said, so what do you mean what, you didn't think you had to pay tax? No. Someone told us we didn't have to pay tax on the exit sum. I was like, what? What is going on?
I hate to say it's a quote. I can't remember, was it Spike Milligan? The only thing certain in life is death and taxes. If I've wrongly attributed that, I'm sorry. It could be. Actually, I'm sure it's Spike Milligan. The guy. Do you remember Spike Milligan?
No.
On his, he was a comedian in the from sort of the from around the 70s, and he basically he's a famously was a hypochondriac, and he basically on his epitaph on his tombstone it literally says, "I told you I was ill."
But no, going back to your statement, it's like when I, just as a rule of thumb in my head, I always say, because obviously we're in the upper market of taxpayer, 50%. As a rule of thumb, I'm like, I'm losing 50% of the figures because that's just what I do.
That is,
it can be a bit more, can be a bit less, depending on how you structure it. Just have in your head, whatever your sum is that you want, half of it's going to the tax man. So, yeah, if you want that magic million, you got to sell your business for. It's got to be worth 2 million.
Yeah,
you know.
I was going to say think of the amount you would like to pay to HMRC and triple it.
Yeah.
Think of the amount you wouldn't mind going to those like snaky little fuckers.
No.
And
so they withdrew from the market.
Yeah.
And they go, yeah, we're going to go back for a couple of years and grow the business, and we'll be back in touch when we're ready. When they basically hit their new figures. So I think they went and spoke to like a proper advisor and said, yeah, you probably need to get this business to like say 30 million turnover.
Yeah.
And then you'll get your desired sums each. So that's what they're currently doing. So
it's I remember sort of saying to like one client, I was like, have you paid your stamp duty on that? No, we didn't realize that. So I'm like, no, here's the email where I say please pay your stamp duty. I even sent you the
still
number.
Occurs, yeah.
It's got to the point where I CC whenever we do the calculation for stamp duty, I will send it to I'll send the email over. Now I sort of don't pay stamp duty for my clients, so I sort of say transfer it yourself. But what I do is I CC them into an email that I sent out to HMRC. It has all of the transaction details, and just for my client's own benefit, I put the account details.
Yeah, just lays it all on a plate.
Everything's on a plate with the signed stock transfer forms. It makes up. Did you pay your stamp duty? No, I didn't realize. I'm like, oh, you definitely did.
Yeah,
100% did.
Yeah. If not, they come calling.
Hello, my friend.
Yeah.
What's that? Taxman at the door.
So, obviously, we're recording this in February. So, what is your March looking like? Busy? Is everybody rushing for the financial year, or what?
Do you know what's happening at the end of at the bit on April the 6th?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're working on 23 acquisitions at the moment, and most of them have got a hard completion date of the either 31st of March, which is what we're recommending is the 31st of March. And the reason we say that is because if anything goes wrong, then we've got a week to get it back on track before the 6th of April. Yeah. But it's really intense.
So do you see the cycle of people wanting to complete always around the last quarter of the year and the first quarter?
Yes. So October, because lenders get a bit antsy before the budget gets released, because we never know how our lovely political establishment is going to rock the boat. And so the lenders get antsy, so lending becomes slightly more difficult. So we try and get everything done the week before the budget. And then, bring on April. My God. I think every night this week, I have not gone to bed before sort of 1 a.m. most of the times. I think the last email I sent on Wednesday night was at 2 a.m. And then I was back in the office at, I think, 7:30 because I woke up, saw all the emails and thought, oh, Jesus, fuck.
Hey, I was not saving you on that one.
There is please can you draft a reply to this? Yeah, no, unfortunately, again, with Mud Up, if the issue I have if I was going to start doing like the AI thing with my clients, is my clients know how I speak. They know exactly if I...
Look, I know you're not ever going to use AI anyway, so that's why I think, yeah, you're one of the best in that. But it's a good industry to be in. I think another one that people might... What is the average time that due diligence takes?
Due diligence...
So from you being instructed to completion, what's the rough average time it takes?
Oh, for a full acquisition to complete?
Yes,
okay, so I was going to say due diligence is all about like how prepared the seller is.
Yeah.
Like we've sent out a questionnaire, we're just waiting for their documents to come back. Once they've been sent back, depending on how many there are, you can normally get your due diligence report, I would expect to get back within a week.
Yeah.
Like if you're reviewing the documents, it doesn't take massive amounts of time to get through. Like sort of, you can review quite a few documents in one day. But so from start to finish, from heads of terms all the way through to completion, I would sort of say the average it out sort of between 3 weeks. If there's no external lending, i.e. you're using your own cash, make that clear for anyone not listening, to sort of like 12 weeks is average, sort of 3 months. And again, like sometimes on the like really big deals, so like if you're buying in excess of like 10 million, I would probably say like maybe sort of 20 weeks.
Yeah.
But again, it depends on how complex the lending structure is. But from a legal perspective, depending on who you're working with, like as long as your lawyers are of a collaborative mindset, they're about balancing risk rather than pushing it, and if they come with again sort of advising the client with practical, realistic solutions rather than... You can get an agreement agreed fairly quickly. I think my quickest deal from heads of terms to completion was 4 days. I will say it was 4 solid fucking days, but it was 4 days. We had, with that, the seller, the buyer wanted to do their own due diligence. So that did take a portion out of things we had to do. The SPA was, on the first day, the heads of terms went out. As soon as they were signed, the SPA was drawn up. And then there was like 2 days of sort of ironing out fine details. Ancillary documents, all the board meeting minutes and etc. were prepared. We were done by Friday. Came in on Monday afternoon, completed on Friday morning.
A few days. How big was that though?
It was 6 figures.
Okay, cool. That's still good. That's quick, mate.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it felt fucking intense.
Yeah,
quickest
I've ever done is 5 weeks, and that was with my own cash as well.
5 weeks.
Yeah.
You weren't working with Mud Up, were you?
I know, clearly, yeah.
No, I always have to say to my clients, I hate things being sat on my desk for no apparent reason. I'm not a person who sort of gets an email and then waits 4 days to reply. I like it to be done and off.
No, good. Like yeah, so it should be, yeah.
And we aim to have a really quick turnaround with everything we do. Like I always sort of say, like from me receiving the first SPA, so if I'm on sell side, the way I try to deal with it, so for those people who don't know, the buy side is normally responsible for drafting the SPA.
Correct,
Or the purchase agreement, or whether it's the APA or the SPA. Buy side generally drafts. Sometimes on an asset purchase, the sell side will draft the APA, simply because the sellers have like more information on the assets. And again, the assets are sort of fundamental. So sometimes sell side will draft the APA. But again, it's more common than not that is buy side. But I can't remember what I was going to fucking say now. The way if I'm working on sell side, the way we try to keep things really quick, or we try to keep the momentum there, is if we receive it, let's say we receive it at 4:00 on a Monday, I will normally review it. So we were open to 6:30, so I'll review it in that time. And when I'm reviewing it, I will be putting in comments for my amendments and where I want my amendments to go.
Okay,
And then what I'll do is the next day I'll say to my client, look, Tuesday, can we get a call in? And we'll have a Zoom call. I will share my screen. I'll go, this is the amendment I think is appropriate. And this needs to be taken out. I think that needs to be added in. I think blah, 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 blah. So on and so forth. And then I will, while I'm on the call with them, I will do all the amending on call live with the client.
That's good.
And then I will send it by the end of that call. The document is approved, ready to go back. So we try and get documents back within sort of a 24 to 48 hour window.
Yeah, nice. Efficient.
Oh yeah.
So going on to fees.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is just from MudUp's perspective. So what's the industry sort of standard approach? And are you different or not? Well, go to the standard approach first.
The industry standard.
Is it a percentage?
Sometimes.
Yeah, of the transaction? Is it fixed fee? Is it hourly rate like the 1980s guys do? Or is it a hybrid?
Oh God. So standard practice is your legal fees for a transaction on a larger transaction. So I would say above sort of 500,000, so 500,000 and up, I would expect it to be at 1% or around 1%. So
1% of the transaction.
1% of the transaction fee.
Yeah.
So what that number that we're putting is the purchase price,
Mm-hmm.
and again, I would say the transaction value. So sometimes some clients are buying a company for £1. That
So
company
that's 10p.
is, yes.
No, sorry, 1p. So where am I getting my maths from? Yeah.
There's like proving your career as an accountant and if I take off. So you'd sort of if the client was buying a company at a massive undervalue, you would say, well, we're going to base it on company turnover or we're going to base it on the company EBITDA.
Okay. Yeah.
And so use vague terminology. I would say transaction value should be around 1%.
Yeah.
So for MudUp, we have 3 tiers for how we always work on a fixed fee. Partially because like I don't want to have to time my phone calls with my client.
Yeah, I don't. If I've been quoted hourly people before, and I never got on with them because I see it as a bit of an old-fashioned money grab. But that's my opinion.
I think the thing is they can very quickly become disproportionate. Like the fees can become incredibly disproportionate. So like MudUp, if you're buying a business that's say below £50,000, so £49,999.99, our fee would be £2,000 plus VAT. If you're buying anything from 50,000 up to 400,999.99, whatever the fuck it is, then it is 4,000 plus VAT. So we are slightly more expensive on the lower end, but we are cheaper at the higher end of that. So if you're buying a £450,000 company, you're paying the same. And we basically worked that out in the sense that we didn't want we wanted our clients to be able to account for how much our bill was. So you can go to the lender when they go, what is your acquisition cost? And you go, well, it's a fixed fee, it's this much. And that means that the lender is generally slightly more satisfied with that, but also it's just easy for your accountant for your client to work out what their account, what's going in and what's coming out. But anything above 500,000, we take 1% of. And I say we're pretty much market competitive. I say like a general market, I would expect them to be around 1%. And again, even if you're working on an hourly rate, I would still expect it to be around 1%.
Yeah.
Of course, there are some solicitors that don't charge like that, and they do it on the hourly rate, and it's. I mean, we've seen it. Yeah. I've worked on transactions that have been valued at sort of. I think we had one that was £800,000. So my fee in that regard was £8,000, and the other side solicitor was working on an hourly rate. By the end of it, I think the buyer had paid something like £17,000. Which, don't get me wrong, I sat there and kicked myself because of the amount of frigging work I did.
But still, I don't think it's very. I don't see that model as being honest.
I see it
because you're not incentivized to give a good service when you're on hourly rates, whereas you are. Exactly
that. It's like the realistically saying it the way it is, and the way we all know it is if I'm on a fixed fee, the quicker I do the work and the higher standard I actually work to, it goes up, because the longer it's on my desk, the less money I'm making on it. Also, if you come back, if I've drafted crap and I haven't done my job well, you're going to come back in 6 months and I'm not going to be getting paid for that bit because it's still on the same matter. Yeah, so it's kind of in my view, fixed fee works better. And also, like the way we structure our fee, because one thing that you come up with a lot is there an abortive fee? No. Well, we are. So with us, we have an engagement fee. We have a fee when the SPA is approved for the first time, i.e., if we've received it from the buy side, when we amend it and send it back out, that's when my next fee will become due. Once I've either opened the data room to the other side or I have produced my due diligence report, that's when my third fee becomes
milestone payments,
and then we do a fee on completion or exchange. If it's a split exchange completion, we do a fee on exchange. If it's just a simultaneous exchange and completion, we take the payment on that day. And like, but with us, let's say if the deal falls through let's say if the deal falls through midway through, you would only pay up to where we're at.
That milestone.
And it's so for a lot of my clients, it's got a built-in abortive fee, which I think for some of our clients, it's been quite the saving grace, because when we started off, we took payment on completion, and
you must get so many
clients wandered off. If their deal didn't go through, they wandered off without paying, and we were ended up being owed. I think we lost maybe 100 and something £1,000, and that's when I started going. I think it was £103,000 is what was left on was what we were owed. And that was when I decided, actually, there is a barrier to entry. I work really bloody hard, and so if you want to work with me, I expect a commitment from you. And you get,
and that's just fair to both sides, I think. So, but it's like you said, early business, you learn the hard way, unfortunately. But
it was a bloody hard lesson to learn.
But now it's like you said, you pick and choose who you work with, anyway.
Oh no, I say like the moment we can be quite. I don't want to say like we're not exclusivist, but like how because I've got clients that I've worked with for like 5 or 6.
That's what I mean. You're not. It's not. They all come back.
It's like a lot of my clients will come back and go, Ray, would love to work with you again. This has been fantastic. Like especially on the buy side, if you're working with a buyer, like I've got a client that I absolutely adore working with. I watched his business grow from an idea, much as my own, to him now owning, I think his business is worth sort of 8 figures, into the 8-figure.
I think it's the two. I know you're on about the two.
Do you know
the two golden eggs, as we call them. On
one of them is I can't even say, but like,
I know the two. The double act.
No.
There's 2 of them.
No.
Oh no, I don't know who it is. Must be another buy-side client you got.
So I work with this buy-side client from.
So I'll prod you after camera's gone off.
When the camera's gone off. No, so I work with this client for 5 years. That should probably give it away if they watch this. I'll know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's fine. But
but I've worked with them for 5 years, and we were laughing that like a few months ago we were saying like we've worked on, not all of them have been successful, but we've worked on 15 transactions together, and those are the types of client that they like. We are.
Like you started their journey with them, so you're just carrying on going.
Absolutely.
It's good. And I know there's also a couple more that you've been with as well. There's the other guys that are on, like, I think they're close to 9 figures, or they'll be on course for it. Within the next 5 years.
But it's I will say with clients that are like that, they have a really good corporate structure.
Yes, or they have to be to get to that point anyway. So
lenders see them and understand straight away what they're doing. And it's like, and that's what I would say, like if you're interested in buying a business and like this is your first flurry into it, if you are buying a business with a business partner, have the paperwork, have a shareholders agreement between yourselves, have a partnership agreement between yourselves, have a corporate structure. Again, having each of you holding your shares in separate holding companies, and then having a good layer of corporate protection. The lenders will understand what you're doing. Maybe the small time lenders might not, and they might be a bit funny about it, but the bigger lenders and the banks, that again, what you kind of want,
they trust that more than
it's when you start to talk about like,
it's just good business and good structure, and it shows you're organised and you're ready for market and you're ready to grow, and it just shows just pure readiness, really.
It's one of those things that's like, do the legwork. And I think if anyone is taking anything from this podcast, if you're still there, I'm sorry I rabbited on, but if you're still there, if you're going to take anything from this, do the legwork first. Whether you're buy side, whether you're sell side, do the legwork. Look at your corporate structures. Look at, if you're a seller, look at your bank. Look at your account and look at like your business. Get to know your business backwards, because anyone who's going to part with any serious cash is going to want to know everything they can about that business before they part with it. And again, any lender is going to want to do the same. So doing the legwork in the early days.
So especially now, because a lot of deals are done, like seller finance, vendor finance, creative, whatever way they want to do it. So your accounts will be looked at. You'll have like if you want lending, like the buyer will ask for your set of accounts for the last 12 months, really.
So my standard. So
you got to be clear cut and know your figures.
I would be going for sort of 3 to 5 years of accounts.
Yes, but obviously no. Actually, like they want to see your current in and out bank account for the last 12 months.
I would,
as a minimum.
What I would do every month in that regard is I would download the bank statement. I would download the P&L from Xero or QuickBooks.
Yeah.
And literally, even if you're not doing anything with it,
put in the
data room.
Put in the data room. Put in the data. Yeah, because that's what annoys me most. Yeah. One of the problems I have, because I specialise in construction, engineering, manufacturing industries. They are notoriously built from Neanderthals, right? Yes. Love them to death, but their commercial accounting reporting is trash. Right? I know a lot of them that they wait for an external accountant to tell them how much profit they made at the end of the year, reported to them 2 months after their year end, and things like, and that's more common than you think, and that's on businesses from like 5 to 15 million.
I would say that the businesses that come into this one are the done on a handshake. It's the ones that back of the fact packet contracts, and you sort of don't get me wrong. I love that sort of. In theory, I love that sort of business. Working on them, it's absolute hell.
Yes.
Like whenever they we don't have any formal agreements. We've just got it on an understanding. I'm really happy for you, but
but you can't buy that.
Yeah, your understanding is not going to stand up in a rigorous legal battle, and again, it makes your business less bankable. Now, what I will say is there are, and you might be aware of them. There's a few business. They're not brokers, but they go in and they prepare businesses for.
Yeah, I do. So part of my brokerage is that, and then I offer advisory as well. So it's like preparing for exit.
Yeah.
So it takes anywhere from 6 months to 2 years, really, to do it properly.
I was going to say, so on one business that we were looking at buying, they'd been preparing to sell for 3 years. That's before it went to market, before they'd done anything. Yeah. Literally straightening up all of the loose ends. So by the time it got ready to sell, they were at 5. I think they were at 5.6 million.
Yeah.
As value.
Because basically, what it is, to get the biggest value for your business, you need 3 years worth of clear-cut accounting.
Yeah.
To maximum, because it's obviously the value is taken off for 3 years and then averaged out over that 3 years. So that's what you do to optimize the value of your business. You need three years of clear-cut accounts. In simple terms, monthly management accounts, everything clear on the table. Directors, shareholders, dividends, salaries, contributions, all out on the side for add backs, take backs, all that jazz, and everything else on a register, everything organized, ready to go.
Yeah, so it's same with again, when separate aside from the finance, and don't get me wrong, I know the finance is very important, but it's the same with your agreements. It's the same with your licenses and consent. Yeah. It's if you've got a certificate that's due to come due for renewal, making sure that it's in the diary to get it renewed, so there isn't a lapse period. Making sure that your insurance premiums are all maintained and kept up to date, because again, that's really common. What you might find would come up sort of more, fairly regularly is, the insurance lapsed in this time period. Well, here's the thing, Barbara, we're going to be going for an indemnity for that time period. Thank you anyway.
Yeah,
it's that's the thing, is by making sure that you're prepared and that you're ready to go, you actually have you do a lot of. But
you
retain the value of the business.
Yeah, but what a lot of people that go through that process is, a lot of the time they realise how not poorly they run their business, but how lax they have, or they've learned new skills, and then all of a sudden they don't want to exit. They want to. I've known a lot of clients that want to go, no, I want to go and bolt something in, or I want to go and build it a bit more for a bit more value.
Yeah.
And then they just stay, and then they go, in doing this, in stabilising my business properly, I'm not day to day anymore. I've got middle management. So I'll just keep it, thanks. And then they just keep it as a lifestyle business. You know, so
I sort of find the also it's like whenever it's sort of in the same ilk, whenever like the due diligence questionnaire comes through, and if you're like, for me, I see them every day. There's just a lot of questions, but for a lot of sellers, it feels like a personal fucking attack.
Yeah,
they are being heavily scrutinized, and
a lot of them don't like it.
No, a lot of them really don't, and you sort of see them getting sort of like, why are we having to answer this question? Why do they want more information? We've told them this already, or we've told them that. And you sort of go, generally speaking, whenever there's further questions come through, they're either coming through from the instruction of the lawyer, where I'll have seen something, I'll go, can you just go and make, like, what we'll do is we'll send this email over to the other side solicitor, just asking for more information, more detail. But again, it's like
just to build that full picture.
Yeah, it's really. I sort of say, like, from a legal perspective of an acquisition, I sort of find it really interesting because my clients, I had a conversation with a client probably about 6 months ago, and I was doing the due diligence, and my client had been to the business, had been on site visits, and had done some quite in-person due diligence themselves. And I was going through the due diligence, I was telling them stuff, but they were building this picture coming together. And he goes, it's really funny, right? Because you're mentioning this in the documents that you've seen, and I was in the building actually looking at it in person. That's when you know sort of the due diligence process is going well. You're building a complete picture that, again, is for a business that I will probably never go to. I'll probably never visit. And my client is going in, and things are looking. You can. The paperwork matches what they're putting out there, or what they're seeing when they go and do.
Because like you got to say, you got to test drive. You've got to test drive that business because it's a big risk. It's a lot of capital.
Well, there's some really, really good tips that like sort of some of my clients do. Is that they'll go for a site visit over 2 days, and on the evening they will take out the senior management team for a couple of drinks, a couple of bevies, a dinner, and they get to know them. They also, on the first day, they're really well behaved, and it's like that. And then by the second day, you go, oh, so, it's like we've been there for years. And this is such a good idea from this client.
Yeah, I like that idea too.
It was sort of something that they came up with, and again, like sort of on the acquisition process. Yes, there's a process that we follow, but like there's also a lot of room for maneuver for you to go and do your own things. Like again, like build that relationship. I've always sort of said, when it comes down to the most important things when it comes to acquisitions is the relationship between the buyer and seller, which is for the broker to manage as well. Which sometimes brokers sort of forget that they have the buyer is in the room with that seller because they put them there.
But it's funny you say that. Last week, I actually had a discovery call. This is for me personally now, right?
Yeah.
For a business that I'm interested in looking at. This is actually from an on-market broker as well, believe it or not. So I was on this Zoom discovery call, as the initial call always is. And I always just set the tone. I'm like, right, I'm not here to dive into the financials. I'm not here to plug you with 101 questions about how your business operates. I want to get to know you, right? And obviously understand what you want from a buyer, because I know what I am as a buyer. Obviously, I'll get to that in a second, but I'll know if you can just tell me what you want from a buyer, then obviously I'll know if it matches what I am and what you want. If you're not sure, then I'll go into what I am. But I always notice this is like a big corporate brokerage that's obviously well known. And off of the back of that meeting, it's like I come off of it. We get on fine. I quite like the look of the two guys, and it's like I'd like to. This was a Manchester-based business. So I've never been up that far for a start for a business. And it's like, I would like to come and meet you for an in-person like meet-up, basically. Just nothing too in-depth, just a casual meeting. Let's explore this more, right? And I said, right, obviously, I know you got to liaise with the broker who's on the call. Obviously, they're just mute, don't they? They don't say anything, these crappy ones. And then he emails me after. I went, speak to your man, and then we set up some dates. Took diary, and then he came back to me a few hours later, actually, which I was shocked at, because normally they don't do that for like 3 days at least. And he's like, before we arrange that, can you put an indicative offer down? And I said, one, you haven't given me any of the correct information to submit an indicative offer. No, I cannot, because I don't operate like that. I want to get to know the person first before I talk financials, because my opinion is financials and some always figure themselves out if the buyer and seller are right for each other.
Yeah.
Because that's what I focus on first.
I
If they're not right, there's no point talking figures and business, really.
I sort of said the exact same thing, that like that relationship between the buyer and seller. Like I was working on a deal for last year, and the deal sort of came to an end because the buyer and the seller, their values just didn't line up.
Yeah.
I was talking to I was working on sales side, and the seller was saying like the buyer had gone in and he'd sort of gone, oh, we can save costs here, or we can cut costs there, or we can do this, and we can make the business more profitable. The seller,
already.
The seller was like, I don't think he understands that we have built our relationship by pretty much rolling the red carpet out for our clients.
Yeah.
Like we don't spare costs. We are we are there for giving our clients the best service.
Quality, not quantity, sort of thing.
Exactly that. And just at the end of it, like you could just see that the real reason why the deal fell through was just those values just weren't aligned.
Yeah.
And you start thinking to yourself, well, like these are when you start looking at a deal, like if you're talking to the seller and you're sort of thinking, oh, I don't agree with that. Again, make a note of it. Don't go wrong. It doesn't matter how good the business is, because when you come in with your different values, it's going to cause even more of a ruckus. And when we were talking earlier about the unsettling period, well, trust me, if you are going in with different values from the existing sellers, it's going to cause more problems. It's going to unsettle more clients. It's going to unsettle the staff.
Yeah.
And again, if you're looking at your staff going, we're paying them more than minimum wage, we can cut all their pay down. I'm joking, you can't. Laura will tell you that there's a lot of legal implications doing that. But if you're looking at them in that regard, that attitude is going to come through. And if you're always penny pinching and always, and again, don't get me wrong, if you're a penny pincher and you're buying from a penny pincher, that business will carry on and thrive and do well. But if you're working with a client that if you're working with a seller or a buyer that has red carpet rolled out, no expense spared.
What I've learned personally over time is literally just the rapport.
Yeah.
Just like if you're aligned, then it's going to work. If you're not aligned, there's no point even mentioning pound signs.
I was going to say, I don't want to mention brokerage firms, but if I was going to extend its name from mere initials, I'd say kick, bollock, scramble.
Yeah. So, but no, the problem with the brokering game, as you know, it's just it's not regulated, so it's the wild.
It's one of those. I think with the brokerage game is it's the experienced brokers get a bit jaded and they're not prepared to listen to new deal structures. They've got a structure that works, and that's what they like.
Yeah, everyone, the more experienced they are, 8% day one. If not more, and then they're like the rest of them on 1-2 year deferred. That's it.
It's the other side of it is brokers that like don't know how to manage a relationship.
Yeah,
they don't know how to manage the buyer and seller. They just can't. They're like, oh fuck it, we've got a buyer who's come in. So like here they are. Like these guys, don't know each other, don't like each other. They should never be put in a room, or they'll side with. And again, like when Charlie Norton was starting up Vamos. Me and him had a lot of conversations. Like I'm very good friends with Charlie. I don't hide my friendship with him. He's such a cracking guy. But I was saying to him, Charlie, you've got to be a broker that I can stand to work with, because there are so many brokers in this world that are fucking terrible. That like they constantly just side with what the seller wants. You go, no, you're managing a relationship. So if that is you saying to
you have to kind of approach it like a divorce lawyer. You have to compromise in.
I'd probably say you have to approach it a bit like a mergers and acquisitions lawyer.
Yeah.
Rather than a divorce lawyer, Charlie.
But you know what I mean. You can't. Buyer wants, he wants it as cheap as possible. Seller wants as much as possible. That's your first standoff.
Yeah.
The evaluation is never going to be eye to eye from the get go, whether you like it or not.
Well, again, if the broker has valued the business correctly, then.
Well, you can value the business on traditional methods, but it's like I always say to my clients as well. You will only get as much as what the market's willing to pay for it. That might be above the valuation, right? Might be a bit below it.
Yeah, no, that's it.
It depends what time of year you go to market. depends on how good your business is.
Yeah.
And the appetite for it. So there's a few real life factors that
there's a few variables. It's like whenever you sort of give a again, this is something like it's like a lot of brokers have started doing, where rather than going, it's offers in excess of
offers only,
offers in excess of 5 million only. Oh, you go, well, by giving a range, you're in the first instance you're managing that seller expectation, where you go, well, it could be between 2.4 and 4.7 million. That's a fucking large range.
It's too much,
But like,
you might as well just say offers invited.
I mean, like,
which is another just
that's
driver.
A Wild West card. If I see something that says,
I've tried it before with a listing. It doesn't work.
Whenever I see that
it does not work. I've learned that the hard way.
If you've ever bought anything off Facebook Marketplace, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 open to offers. You go, 50p.
Yeah.
This is a 1987 Triumph, something like 48p.
A lot of them at the moment, all the bigger ones than me, because it's just me and a couple of guys at mine, they're doing all open offers. They're not putting figure down.
I don't understand how that would work.
They're just, because what they want to, obviously,
they don't want to be.
They just want to get a big range and just go, all right, top 5, we're just going to submit them to or set them calls up. Because a lot of them now, they're going, nah, we want an indicative offer before we put you on a discovery call. And it's like, what? What are you doing? That's just ridiculous.
We would like to see the indicative offer, and you sat there and go, you sat there and go, all right, okay. Like, but I don't have the facts and all the details to make a comprehensive offer. Yeah. Which, again, like,
if they supplied all the correct information in the data room, if they even had a data room, right, you can understand that. But if they don't,
they will. Yeah.
What am I offering on? Bloody IM. Like, that's overinflated with the EBITDA number that no one gives a shit about. But it's nonsense.
You see a lot of pictures of them on LinkedIn where it's like EBITDA and adjusted EBITDA, and it's like,
it's really frustrating because I have to use the term EBITDA, adjusted EBITDA, because it's sort of in the industry, right? I can't ignore it. I'm not fond of it, but I have to use it. But I prefer EBIT personally, but that's me and how I approach business.
Yeah.
But the average Joe, the average broker, average buyer, they're all about this fucking
ta-da.
Like, I would rather gross profit, net profit.
Yeah.
And the rest of it you can figure out if you understand business. But whereas a lot of people are just all about the multiple of the EBITDA, and that's it. The group enterprise bad value. They don't care about like cash flow, forecasting. They don't care about the real stuff of a business. You know, they care about what's reported at the end of year. But January to December, you need to understand if it's consistent or if it's Q1 and Q3 only, and then the other Q2 and 4 are difficult.
Yeah.
Which is it?
You need
to understand the life cycle of the financial year to understand how to value it, what it's really worth.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an interesting sort of like the metrics for how business are valued. I don't value them. Again, my clients will come to me when the offer's already gone in, all of that's already done. I'm sort of coming in at the legal.
I mean, even look, I help people value businesses, and there's probably 6 ways you can traditionally value a business. I just do all 6 ways, and I say it's around this figure. Obviously, I'll do the calculations. I'll show them each one.
Yeah.
And I say, if you do this way, this valuation, you get X amount, blah, blah, blah. And then it's all around the multiple. Everyone's fixated on the multiple, And it's like, my industry, in reality, is between 2 and 4x.
Yeah.
With the size of business I deal with. And they're like, but I've seen online it's a times 7 multiple. And it's no.
Those days are gone.
If you want times 7 multiples, go build a SaaS company, not a construction company. Like in construction, it's 2 to 3.5 multiple range, really. If you get 4x multiple, you're doing bloody well.
Yeah. I really like when it comes to value in business, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Like I always sort of say to people one of my favorite and most common lines are, I'd run that by the accountant, I'd go and have a word with a tax advisor. I always say I'm a numbers guy. I'm not a numbers guy. I'm a words
Law
guy.
guy.
Words. I'm a words guy, not a numbers guy. Honestly, I tell you, when it comes to sort of numbers, I'm quite happy to put the purchase price in, and we can work out.
Yeah.
Anything that goes.
But if you want
the numbers, I'm like, oof.
If you want a rough
question.
ballpark figure, like for your sake, if you just want to have a laugh and people just go net profit times it by 4.
Net profit times it by 1.
Yeah. But that's what I mean. Each industry has different multiple ranges.
Yeah.
And who set them? Who knows? Like, it's just,
I would have said like the 5 times multiple would be the idea of. I would have thought that it came from like, well, we're giving you like a golden handshake of 5 years. Does that make it like you think it'd make a like I don't know. I don't.
The thing is, a 5x would be nice, especially in the sectors I come from. But I'm just used to the lower multiple range.
Well,
like I said, you can always get more if your business is better and it's in the fashionable market.
If you want to grow a business and make it worthwhile. Yeah. But anyway, I'm going to
go home.
I'm going to go home. I'm fucking tired.
But no, it's been a pleasure, Ray. Thank you for coming. I've been waiting for this for a while.
It's been a pleasure, Charlie.
That's good. Now,
good.
I think I've got all professionals so far from the industry. I've got a few more due on for the.
Have you got an accountant in yet? I can recommend 2 that are nowhere near.
I've asked someone. She hasn't confirmed yet. So Miss Wilkinson needs to come back to me. I've asked Miss Julie to come on.
Julie Wilkinson?
I've asked her.
Oh, bloody hell.
Yeah, she just read the message and left. So, but I know she's busy and she always does come back to me.
To be fair, she has just gone through January for an accountant and then...
No, to be honest, so Julie had been asking me a few times to come on her podcast.
Yeah.
But I said no because I don't like Zoom podcasts. Right?
Fair.
Yeah.
Fair.
That's just my preference, right? I messaged her last week. I said, I've started my own podcast series off because I felt really bad that I said no to her. And then after the back of that, I decided to start with this venture.
Oh.
So I reached out to her. I said, you know that I said no to you. Do you fancy coming and doing an in-person one with me?
So I've been on a few Zoom podcasts over the years. I don't know where they are now. I'm sure if you try and find them, they'll be somewhere.
Look, I've seen them. I just don't think it's for me. So.
I just think it puts a lot of variables on my computer camera. Like at best, my computer camera is not one that I'd want to be filmed on.
Yeah.
It just about survives Zoom with forgiveness. Yeah, no, it's not. I sort of always think like it's one of those things like whenever I get asked to go on a podcast or a sentence, I always like to do things in person. I think it's a lot more personal. It's a lot more personal, but it's like I say the same to clients, like go and see the business that you're buying. Go and touch wood, touch the doors
if they let you in.
If
they don't want to let you in, there's 9 times out of 10 the time they're trying to hide.
Oh, a big, massive red flag. If the seller isn't letting you in, another one that I sort of come up with and see quite a lot is when they bring on the lawyers. When you bring on the lawyers, and they try, like I always sort of say, like the communication between the buyer and seller is most important. I think like the buyer and seller having been able to talk to each other and call each other is really important. But like sometimes when a deal starts to become frustrated, you'll find that the buyers and sellers don't actually, they stop talking. They try and just direct all of the communication through the lawyers. And I've been in situations where
that's when you know it's a shit deal. Yeah. Sorry, not a shit deal, but that's when you know.
When you know the deal, you may as well start planning the funeral for it. Yeah. I've never had a deal move to completion when the buyer and seller stop communicating in total, and it suddenly starts being treated like a divorce rather than a purchase. Anyway, right.
Thank you, Ray.
This has been an
pleasure. I'll put all your information in the description when I discover how to do that. Thank you, Ray.
You're very welcome.
Cheers.
Thank you.